Hello, everyone. My name is Esinam, and my research broadly focuses on emotions and mental health across cultures. And to the best of my knowledge, there's been some work exploring various emotional experiences across cultures, but there's still much to be covered about the biological and psychological aspects of love specifically. And so this gap presents a valuable opportunity to explore how love is experienced both biologically and psychologically. But for the purposes of this course, I'm only going to focus on the biological aspects of love. And so the title of my research review is Exploring the Biological Foundations of Love. To provide context to this research, love is an emotion, and emotions in general are psychological and physiological responses to stimuli. Emotions are complex psychological and physiological states that drive human behavior and play a crucial role in shaping our interactions. And there are two types of emotions. Emotions can either be positive or negative. And some positive emotions include love, which is the focus of this research review, and joy. And some negative emotions are anger, fear, and sadness. And it is important to know that emotions are embedded in neural networks. So, talking about love, which is the main focus of this research review, I believe everybody can relate to the state of being or falling in love. And although defining love can be difficult, I found an article which you can read more about in the reference list that defined love as a complex neurobiological phenomenon relying on trust, belief, pleasure, and reward activities within the brain. And love plays a critical role in shaping human behavior and our overall mental health. However, like I said earlier, the biological underpinnings of love are less understood. And for this research review, the main focus is on love in partner relationships. So, I'm going to talk about the brain mechanism when it comes to love. And this is the basic pathway involved in rewards and motivation. So, say we consume something rewarding like alcohol or chocolate or experience feelings of love, the reward system in the brain is activated in similar ways. So, first, dopamine is released here in the ventral tegmental area, and then it goes to the nucleus accumbens and then to the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is here. So, talking about the nucleus accumbens, it is the part of the brain's reward system that creates feelings of pleasure. So, when a person falls in love, the nucleus accumbens becomes highly activated due to the release of dopamine, making time or thoughts about a loved one extremely rewarding. And then we know that the prefrontal cortex here is responsible for executive functioning. So it helps with in decision making and self control. And this part of the brain is also affected by love. So when a person is in love, the dopamine release here makes a person's attention on the loved one increase. So there's more focus on the loved person. And also at the same time, the the area here, which is the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for judgment, becomes less active, which explains why when people are in love, they they mostly tend to focus on the positive aspects of their relationships or positive things about their partners and overlook the negatives and the flaws. Another system involved in love is the peripheral nervous system. And to better explain this when it comes to love, this mechanism works similarly to when we are stressed. So, when we find something rewarding or stressful, it activates the autonomic nervous system. And the autonomic nervous system is a key part of the peripheral nervous system. And when this happens, our sympathetic nervous system is also activated. So think about you writing a qualifying exam and you being stressed about it. So it's typical for your, when it comes to your eyes, it's typical for your pupil to dilate. It's when it comes to your salivary gland, it's typical to have inhibited salivation. It is also typical to have increased heart rate when it comes to heartbeat when it comes to your heart. And so the same thing happens when we are in love, especially when it is the first time, when it is our first time. So the autonomic nervous system is responsible for many of our physical responses when we are in love. Uh, so typically, when we are attracted to someone or we are in love with someone, our sympathetic nervous system, just like when we are stressed out, is activated, leading to physical changes like increase in heartbeat, dilation of the pupils, and you hear people say, I have butterflies in my stomach. And even people sweat in their palms, especially when they are going on first dates or meeting the person they're in love with for the first time. And so these are bodily responses associated with fight or flight reactions. But in the case of love, they often come in the form of excitement or anticipation when we are with someone we care about. On the flip side, when love deepens into attachment, the parasympathetic nervous system becomes more involved, promoting feelings of relaxation and safety with the when we are with the person we love. So the 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 pupil contract, there is slow heartbeat, and so we feel calm and secure, and also there is emotional stability at this level in the relationship. So now we are going to talk about the neurotransmitters and hormones involved in love using the love system by Helen Fisher, a biological anthropologist. And Fisher's model breaks love into three primary systems, which are lust, attraction, and attachment. And each of these systems are driven by different biological processes serving unique purposes. So I'm going to explain this further. So the first system, which is lust, according to Fisher, is defined as essentially as sex drive. And this system is fueled by hormones like testosterone and estrogen, driving the desire for safe physical intimacy and reproduction. And lust is what motivates us to seek out partners in the first place. And so from lust, we move to attraction. And this is normally referred to as romantic love. And this is where things get excited, dopamine and norepinephrine levels in the brain spike, creating feelings of euphoria and energy. And at the same time, serotonin levels drop. And so this explains why we narrow our attention to one partner and we tend to stick to one partner because our serotonin levels drop. But over time, in the but over time, as the relationship stabilizes, serotonin level normalizes, contributing to a more balanced mood. And it is important to note that romantic attraction can fade away when we are no longer motivated or rewarded to be with the person we're in love with anymore. And at this stage too, there can be frustration, frustration, attraction, where your dopamine and your norepinephrine levels are high, but then there's a barrier, say your parents are not allowing you to 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 be together with the person you are in love with. And the third or the final system is attachment, which has to do with long-term bonding, and the hormones here are oxytocin and vasopressin, and everybody releases these hormones. So these hormones are usually found during after childbirth when the mother breastfeeds the baby, but in relationships it is activated when there's physical touch, hugging, sexual intercourse, and the attachment level helps us to build trust, emotional intimacy, commitment, and helps us sustain long-term relationships. And people in long-term relationships, you typically have higher oxytocin and vasopressin. And so I am really excited about this research because it fills important gaps in our understanding when it comes to the neurobiological and physiological processes underlying love. And I'm also looking forward to the future of this work because there's a lot of area that could be explored. And so future research could focus on the long how love impacts brain functioning and physiological health over time. So it could be a longitudinal study studying people over time to see if they are going to be brain changes using maybe MRIs. And another thing that I also look forward to is research on diverse types of love, say familial bonds, platonic friendship, and self love, to see if the brain mechanisms and biological underpinnings are going to be the same across these types of love. And so these are some references that I use for this review, and anybody interested to knowing more about this topic could read about them. And yeah, thank you for listening.